The Todd Shapiro Show. Canada Laughs, SiriusXM 168.
But yeah, it's a little hectic. It's a kind of a weird sombering, especially to your point with the shooting, with the unfortunate, 12 people have passed away with that, and then this going on. It's been a little crazy down here. So.
Oh my goodness! I didn't realize there were so. Yeah, and by the way, Ian Soroto's a very funny comic and producer, hanging out with us today. He loves his weed too. And,
I was going to ask, how's your weed after all that?
Yeah, I mean, that's, a little bit of silver lining. At least Croptober is over, so most of the flowers have been pulled down as of last month or early this month. So I think we're in the clear there. Because funny, that's what happened to us with the Santa Rosa fires in NorCal last year. So many of my friends' crops, they just got ruined. And it's not just the smoke itself, it's what's in the smoke, right? So all these hazardous chemicals and asbestos and all these things that get incinerated during these big fires that land on the crops, and there's just no way to to get it off the flower. So I think we're better off this year than last, but man, it's been a crazy one. But glad you're a fan, Ian. Always love anyone fan of the green.
Is there any property available downwind from where you are? Or?
So the best place, I've got a friend up in Santa Barbara County, which is the up the coast a bit. He's got about 325 acres, and he's considering a subletting. So if you want to invest in something out here in beautiful California, they're a little less prone to fires than us, though. They're far enough away to where they don't get hit with these seasonal winds and such. So they've fared much better.
How are people doing right now? The fires aside, but with the shooting, and I think what a lot of people don't realize about Thousand Oaks, it's right near Calabasas and sort of in the way and on the way to Malibu and stuff. And if you head to LA, and it's. LA's so spread out. So when you think of LA, when I think of LA, I think of places like Thousand Oaks. It's really just being in LA. In the same way in Toronto here, if someone says Mississauga, I just think they're from Toronto type of thing. Because it's really only a 35, 40-minute drive without traffic. It's not really that far away. And it's so spread out anyway. So what's the, I know what it was like when we had a shooting, around the corner from us recently, and a van mowed someone down and stuff. But let's just start here, Lance. Is that a bar that you've been at before?
Oh yeah. That's I'll admit, in my younger days, I was a little bit more into the country and ag scene, just because of where I went to college up in San Luis Obispo. So I had been to that bar before. My wife and I went and saw. Believe it or not, Ian will appreciate this. A lot of the local comedians. So you mentioned Calabasas and Agora and Malibu. We do have a lot of celebrities and not just actors, but musicians and comedians. And we have a few really, really good clubs in their backyard where they come and practice their routines. And last time I was over there was to see Kevin Kennedy. And it's just a nice little club. It's a local place where they feel comfortable and safe to try their new material without going down to the Sunset Strip, to the Ha Ha House, or, whatever place, the Improv, wherever they're going to end up. So that's where I had been there before.
So they've done not only country nights, they've done comedy there.
Oh, yeah. They have comedy nights, country nights.
See, I got to be honest, and I don't know. I was trying to think about that because, sorry, the name escapes me right now. What was the club called again?
So this is actually Borderline.
Yeah, Borderline.
Bar and Grill.
But I swear, I thought of it. I'm like, I feel like there's some comics that have talked about doing shows there before.
Probably so. It's like I said, it's one of those, just like we have a venue up in Ventura that a lot of bands go and practice their new material before going on tour. So we have a couple places up here where, again, people just feel safe. We're not going to heckle them. We're locals. We respect them. We know they're our neighbors. So it is kind of a special place, and it's unfortunate what happened. I know you guys, you've joked before, but we really have this issue with guns in this country. I think about it, and I even posted something up in social, and I was like, I'm rethinking my retirement plan. All of a sudden, the Netherlands or Canada or Ireland don't sound so bad compared to what's been going on here. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just so hard to even comprehend. Watching that father cry for his son. Did you see that one? The guy wearing the hat.
Yeah.
And if you're not a human being if you don't cry watching that, and then you're not a human being if you don't think to yourself, my God, how do we not, and another mother said it, and it's something I say all the time on the show, you don't just send thoughts, you send action. How can we send action and do something about this. And maybe not everyone has the answers, but it's just insane.
I was reading that the shooter came back from the war and he was like a changed human being. So we got to look at that too, like how war changes people. And he was like a really nice guy, and all of a sudden he came back with PTSD, and that's an issue.
But then I read another thing today where it's like he sexually assaulted his teacher or something, and that there's a history of most shooters. 60% of all these mass shootings, a lot of men have had already assaulted women in the past, and there's a relation there. Like, I don't. It's just terrible stuff.
Yeah, it's true. It was his track coach back in high school, and she had quite a bit to say about, to your point, to his personality and just odd demeanor. Wow. And so they are kind of connecting the dots. It is something, and not to play down at all. I mean, PTSD is a serious issue. I have friends that deal with that. But this guy did have a track record. And I hate to say it, but this goes on par with several others with the quote-unquote average white male. I mean, it's not any group, but more predominant, this like 20, 30-something disturbed individual that just, takes the Halo game to reality. And it's just I'm embarrassed by it. I mean, I know you guys are understanding, but being a world traveler, I'm embarrassed of some of the things that we deal with here, in the U.S. So we're not a perfect country by any means, and I hope people start recognizing that.
Did you know anyone or any, it's, I would imagine not the biggest of communities up there?
Yeah, no, we're only about 100,000, so it's not a large community by any means. So there were a few degrees of separation. A majority of them were younger. They were actually students from Cal Lutheran School, which is literally a quarter mile from my house. So these kids were neighbors, literally, but I didn't know any of them personally. And Todd, my life is 75% on the road. I literally just got back from a tour of Amsterdam, Berlin, and Prague. So I'm not around too much, but yeah, I definitely had friends that knew of individuals that were tied to it. And even more so, insult to injury, in my opinion, several of the individuals that were at the club that night actually lived through the massacre in Las Vegas. This is the same country music scene, and this is the same kind of, they all run together. And again, I was very much into the country scene and the ag scene back in college. I know how it is. I mean, you go to the local shows, you go to the shows at the bigger venues, and so that's what's even worse is a couple of them had lived through that, and yeah, it's just
Yeah, one of the girls. That's the mother I heard talking, and her daughter survived the Vegas one, but got killed. Oh God, in the shooting there at Borderline, and it's just, I don't know. I wonder what kind of answers they'll have, or if was it targeted because he went right at the bouncer and the cashier and stuff. Anyway, just crazy stuff, man. I can't. I don't think I realized that you were right in Thousand Oaks, right so close to it. Not that it would matter even if it happened in Buffalo as far, but it's still.
Oh no, yeah. It's just like what you dealt with in Toronto. It's in your backyard, so it hits a little closer to home. I mean, like I said, I've got half a dozen family members that are held up at my house right now because of the fires, and they got forced under a mandatory, evacuation for their homes down here. So
that's got to be the worst part about the fire, having to spend a lot of time with your family members.
Where I appreciate the time with them, but I'm just, these things just bring everyone together, and I don't mean to be all somber. I mean, it is a comedy station. It's a comedy show.
No, it's real life show, man. That's all this show is with the attempt humor. We just had a 17-year-old call us in from Chicago, said we're not funny at all. So,
I think you guys are fine. I mean, you guys were getting deep a couple of weeks ago, man. I love the spectrum of topic that you guys cover on the show, and obviously weed being one of them. So we'll segue into that. You guys know we just had a midterm elections, which pretty much means the elections that occur between presidential elections here in the States. And we had a few states that are moving forward, which is awesome. We already knew Oklahoma, but Michigan, a little closer to you guys up in Ontario. I mean, that's a huge win. That's a big, what I consider a keystone state just because of the population and the neighboring states around. So that was big for us. And definitely stoked, again, continue to move in the right direction. Jeff Sessions got fired, which was another, I mean, we were waiting for something like that to happen. It is a little scary because the rumors of Chris Christie maybe coming in, I don't think that's a reality. But yeah, a lot of change happened with a few states and Sessions exiting over this past week. So
yeah, if you're a pot stock investor, you saw the second Sessions was announced firing, everything went up 10%. But the second Chris Christie showed up at that White House, everything went right back down to just before the firing because he's a staunch he's completely against like the legalization of marijuana too. So federally,
he was holding back New Jersey in a big way. I mean, New Jersey literally took a 180 the moment he stepped out of office. So. We know what happened.
If there's anyone who's ever looked like he's had the munchies most of his life, so it's definitely him.
Is he one of Ford's long-lost cousins? I don't know.
Yeah, he probably is, man. What's going on in Florida? Do you know what's going on there? Because they also had, like, Gillum was running on trying to legalize marijuana in Florida, but now the vote's too close. They're counting it over or something. Do you know what's going on over there?
I do not. I mean, the last I did check now in Florida, I mean, they do have a medical program, but they didn't get it right. I mean, we have a few states like that, right? I mean, honestly, the home state of Boveda, Minnesota, they're what we call a flowerless state. New York's had a challenge with their tight regulations around cannabis from a medical position. So Florida, we're waiting for it to wake up. I mean, again, thankfully we've had some good wins. It was a bummer, Ohio didn't move forward, but Missouri, got voted in. So in some medical, I mean, Michigan's big because it's adult use or recreational is another term. But, I mean, Missouri's another one, too, because of passing medical. And Utah. I mean, Utah, I had my money on Utah passing because the LDS Church got behind it. It passed with over 62% in favor. But let's see what happens because it could kind of roll out the same way as Florida did with a bunch of hiccups and handicaps because of too many legalities and too much political kind of positioning within what the regulations look like when they come into fruition. So some crazy stuff, but, we'll see what's to come for sure.
You have any questions regarding that stuff, Ian?
I'm just shocked that the Mormons want weed.
Because it is. I spoke out there, and I try to be PC. I definitely respect all groups, don't delineate. But, I was talking about, it's like we so much talk about in the States, it's church and state, it's church and state. And with the way Utah is, it's church state. I mean, it really just is a run on, and the church does have a lot of encouragement on what happens at the state level there because it's the Mormon state, to your point. Right. So one thing I will say about the LDS and the Mormon religion is they're about things from the earth. They're about wholesome. They're about purism. And they very much are a nurturing group. They very much want to help others, and they understand that there's some issues and epidemics out there. Children with grand mal epileptic seizures, opioid crisis. They're realizing that, those kind of problems don't segregate by religion or by geographical location. I mean, these are issues across the country, and cannabis can help so much more so than pharmaceutical or big pharma solutions. So
maybe it can bring the gun shooting down too, eh? If everybody smoked weed, maybe they wouldn't want to kill everybody.
Yeah.
Although California is a legal state, right?
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're legal across the board, but it's true. I mean, I definitely. You say how many accidents occur from when people are high? Most people complain about them driving too slow and leaving their blinker on like an old person, right? I mean, you don't hear of a high person mowing down a dozen people or a high person getting in a huge ball and pulling a gun. I mean, it's just we joke, but it's true. I mean, alcohol induces rage in many instances where cannabis induces what? Insomnia.
Being late for work.
Yeah, eating too many Cheetos and looking like Ford or Chris Christie. So there we go.
I don't know. I don't mean to be so negative on your country, and it's a country I love going to, and one that I might even be going to in Vegas. And I want to ask you if you're going to be out there for the MJ Con. But
I am.
Sometimes I think of it as like just hasn't evolved. Like that's what I love about Canada. And I've only started to appreciate it with age is like how we evolve as a country. We're more accepting. We have pretty open borders, but still safe to some extent. Diverse, marijuana, healthcare, and then it's really hard. And don't get me wrong. There's assholes in this canon in this country, but it doesn't seem like there's this edge. When you go to the States, you never know you're going to piss off the wrong way by saying something. There's like they're on this edge of fucking. They're just tense. It's tense.
But we don't have the same access to guns, right? That they do, right? Like, what do if you get angry here, what are you going to do? Go get your Sherwood and come out of the car and like.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story, Lance. But it's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
True story. This happened to me on Monday or last week. I think I told the story on air. I was in an Uber and I was going to we're in our financial district for a meeting. And the Uber guy lets me out, and it's a very busy street, and everyone's like downtown Toronto. So picture like downtown New York in a way, just a little smaller. And the guy behind the Uber is like just ramming his horn. So when I got out of the Uber, I was just like, I literally looked at the guy and just put up my arms like, what?
Like, what?
We'll call Orfira back. Let her know.
I've got her on the line with
Yeah,
here.
no, tell her we'll call her back because we're talking to Lance just for a couple more minutes. So I just went like, what? And as I did that, he looked at me and I kind of like leaned in. I didn't know what he was. I thought he was going to say something almost comically, and he threw his coffee at me.
See, I think we are getting like the United States, where you say we're not. Like I see more murders here, more violence, more road rage.
Maybe you're right. There's a ton of shootings in Toronto. You're right.
We're getting more violent and more Americanized because I think we're getting dulled out by social media and the hatred and the violence, and so it's just becoming part of our lives too. But
that could be fair.
Well, we don't have the same access, so there's not as much of it.
Well, and it made me think, though. I go, I better not even shrug my shoulders anywhere I am, because that guy could have just had a gun. Like that, and I thought if I was in the States, that's what it could have been.
Right.
Like, you just mind your own fucking business, head down. It's not worth it. Anyway.
Yeah, but I think things have happened in the past in Canada, and you all, I think to your point, you all rally together. I mean, rather it be cannabis, we're going to go all in as a country. I mean, because a lot of Americans don't understand. You still have 13 provinces. You have provinces that look at Quebec versus New Brunswick versus Ontario versus versus BC. I mean, you have all these different...
It's all right. No one knows Manitoba. Nobody. But there's no reason to know Manitoba. Once you're there, it's either mosquitoes. It's either mosquitoes or snow.
But you guys all come together, and us, you're right. I mean, we're kind of caught in the history books a little bit with the independence, and we have our own constitutions and this and that. But I agree to a certain extent. You're right. I think as much as the World Wide Web was supposed to bring us all together and unite us, I think it's kind of alienated in the same respect too, where people just are on these whole other levels. But I still would. I say I feel safer in Canada. I know there's more people with unlocked doors there. Australia, another Commonwealth country, although be it a stepchild for so long to the UK, but Australia, they had a huge massacre down there, and they said, that's it, this is bullshit, we're moving forward, no more guns. Like, this is not what we're about. And so I think that is a difference. I mean, America, we're just so proud and just so caught up in the past that we don't want to make certain changes. And I hope we don't rub off on others. I mean, I love this country too, but again, it makes me rethink where I want to retire, where I want to spend my later days, because I don't want to have to worry about shrugging my shoulders at someone and then pulling the gap versus actually cussing at me or something, So it's crazy stuff.
I think part of the problem is you guys were founded on telling the British, don't take our guns, right? Like, so you're founded on the gun, right? Where you're scared the government's going to take your guns, where we were just like, take whatever. We're okay with that. Oh, put another tax on that. That's all right. But so you've always had that attitude, like the government's coming to get you, where we know the government's got us by the short and curlies, and we just deal with it, and
but somewhat protecting us, right?
Yeah,
in terms of healthcare and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's not perfect. I mean, look, healthcare isn't perfect. Several things aren't perfect in Canada, but you guys have had a way better go and a bit more success than we have in certain categories.
Healthcare is pretty fucking perfect here, though. Like, there's some terrible case. What, bad case?
Well, I could give my own case.
Oh, what's your case?
I was in the hospital last year, and I had diverticulitis.
What is that?
It's
man. I had that last year too, man. Ian, now we're long lost brothers.
Hey, I'm fucking leaving. I'm leaving. Enjoy, guys. I'm fucking nervous right now. I don't even know what it is. I just know I don't want it.
You don't want this.
What is it?
It's like you get these like little things in your colon, and if they explode, they can put a hole in your colon. Then you start giving yourself, poisoning your body. You're like, you can. How
do you get holes in your colon from doing what?
There's polyps. There's these little polyps, right, that grow in your colon. If they pop, right, they can. What happened to me punctured my colon, and then I couldn't go to the bathroom. And then I started bloating up. I didn't know what was going on, and I went to the hospital.
It was in my large intestine, but still, it's a lot of pain, man. Yeah. It's a lot of pain.
And I went to the hospital like 4 days later, and I was in emergency. I was in the hospital for a total of 5 days. I was in emergency for 3 days, like in the chair.
Oh, shit.
Like, because there's no beds. So we have our own issues.
Oh,
too,
we do?
right?
Okay. It's funny. I haven't heard, I hear the odd story on the news, like
emergency
couple of
is an
year.
issue here.
Yeah, but that's actually. I'm sorry to hear that. That's that. But you're alive, so I mean, ultimately it works. Ultimately it works.
Yeah. And the funny thing,
And it didn't cost you.
I got caught smoking weed in the hospital.
Oh, you did? Well, you're in pain. You're in pain.
And then I gave them
Ian
crap.
from Spain, man.
And then I gave them
Team
crap.
Ian.
And they gave me so much crap about it. And then I was like, but I'm in so much pain. Is exactly what I said. And then they shot me up with morphine.
Of course.
But gave me shit for smoking weed.
That would be really
So,
interesting.
Ian, they put me on antibiotics, man, but I actually cured, joking aside, with the flowers. So I had a transdermal patch from a company down in San Diego called Pure Ratio. It's an 18-to-1 CBD to THC, and they had me on these antibiotics to where I was like nauseous and stomach hurt. Like you can't eat anything. I couldn't eat anything for a day. So I put this patch where the pain was on my ribs, and sure enough, a half an hour later. So I'm an advocate for using cannabis in those times. I mean, it works. It definitely helps.
How do I get the cannabis in my colon, though?
The oil, yeah. That well,
You need a transplant from Lance.
Are you sure this is going to make me feel better? Yeah, buddy. Just turn around.
Hey, Lance Lambert from Boveda.com. 2-way humidity control packs, keeping the flower fresh. Now, Lance, quickly, because I'm considering going, and I have an option, I think, to go. But what is going on in Las Vegas next week?
Oh my gosh, man! So this is the Super Bowl, as Americans would say, of our industry. So MJ Biz is the show. It's the ultimate B2B show. We've seen it grow by thousands every year. Last year, it jumped up to 17,000 attendees from 12. They're expecting anywhere from 20 to 30,000 this year. It's actually held at the Las Vegas Convention Center, which is the largest venue in Nevada. And it's going to be the who's who and everybody in the industry. It's definitely we're going to have a booth there. We'd love to have you over. We're also having a networking event on the Wednesday, the first day of the event. We're having it just after the show. So we'd love to have you at that. But there's plenty of things going on, and there'll be some latest technology, stuff that's shared, as well as, new products, new partnerships. So that's the show to make. If any,
if I can get up there, can you get me a pass to get in?
For you, because we blew through all of ours, I'll admit, but I can definitely find one. We'll get one for you, no problem. If you want to come down, we'll get you in. I promise.
Yeah, please do. Because I have another invitation to get out there through another company. Not necessarily to get to the event, but just to go and host something for them while they're out there. And
gotcha.
So I was thinking of getting out there and then doing the show up around that way.
Oh yeah. Like I said, I mean, it's definitely you'll get to take in a lot. I'll introduce you to some great individuals, especially on the media side. There's some awesome players that'll be out there. I'd love to connect you with down here in the States. And you can obviously come to our party. There's tons of after parties. I mean, nobody knows.
No, this is stuff you can't say out loud in case my wife's listening. This is strictly business, Lance. Strictly business.
Now we found your listener.
After networking events that you can attend that might have things to consume there.
That's all it is networking events. They're not considered
networking.
Well, listen, man, we appreciate it, and sorry to hear how tough of a week it's been. Yeah, man, I can't imagine just seeing that happen just right around the corner from where you are in Thousand Oaks, and then the fires now. You're such a good dude. It's so sweet of you, obviously, taking care of your family, and I just hope brighter days ahead for everyone around that area.
For sure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Tom.
Okay, man. We'll talk about Vegas off air for sure, and we'll talk to you next week regardless.
Okay.
Be safe.
Thanks so much, and great meeting you. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay. Boveda.com.
The Todd Shapiro Show.
You are the greatest hero in American history.
SiriusXM Canada Laughs
Channel 168.